All right, are we live? Yes, looks like we are live. Greetings, all of you, my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villain aficionados. Welcome, bienvenue again to one of my good old fashioned live stream reviews, or live reviews for short. I'm your host, like as always, Laura Shadows, and here we are continuing our very own One Piece movie marathon. And of course, since I've done the first two, of course, the latest one I'm going to review is, of course, none other than One Piece Chopper's Kingdom in the Strange Animal Island. Now, to be fair, I will admit, when it comes to like the first three, this is the one that is my least favorite of the three. Now, in seeing all the One Piece movies all together, again, this movie is definitely one of my least favorite ones, but still there are a lot of elements in it that I still enjoy. Now, of course, is it like blockbuster, like level, awesome? No. Is it like a masterpiece? No. But it's definitely not bad. But still, I will admit that is one of my least favorite ones. But nevertheless, here I am reviewing another One Piece movie. So without any further ado, here we go. So basically, the plot of the movie again is very simple. So you have the Straw Hat Pirates doing their own shenanigans, and then all of a sudden, like at one point, they basically split up, and and they basically end up on an island called Okan Island, and again they split up, and basically Chopper basically goes all the way to like one part of the island where you have all the animals, and they basically elected him as a king. And of course, the other part you have the Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates try to find Chopper, get him back to the ship and everything. And of course, throughout the entire plot, you also have the mystery around this like ancient treasure of the Okan Island, and of course, also the third party of the story is, of course, you have this new villains, Count Butler and his gangs, trying to basically steal this treasure for their own personal agenda, or should I say, Count Butler's agenda. And basically, now it starts as overall a race, like who's gonna get the treasure first. And of course, on the sidelines, you have Chopper's, overall overarching decision. Should he stay with the animals as a king, or should he basically continue his journey with the Straw Hat Pirates? Which is kind of like basically the plot. Now, overall, one of the things I love about this, because when we say treasure, usually we think about gold, silver, bronze, precious stones, pearls, so on and so forth. But sometimes, in all the fiction, sometimes treasure is something more, something more than gold or the precious stones. It could be knowledge. It could be a book. It could be some old parchments. It could be a machine, or in this case, a golden crown that are literally horns. That's basically the overall ancient treasure of the Okan Island that basically Count Butler, the main villain, wants to get his hands on in this movie. Now, again, overall, like I said, the plot right off the bat is very simple, very simple, very easy to follow, very some sort of capacity, like traditional. It doesn't have like something big happening like on a higher scale or something, like again, it's very easy. And again, some people might even think like this movie has like one of the weakest plots for the entire like movie series. uh, I mean, it's definitely one of the weakest, but I wouldn't say it's like one of the worst ones. Okay, like but it's definitely like one of the weakest. But even still, there's a lot of elements in this movie that I really enjoyed. That kind of like made me interested in the plot. Overall, like for example, the my favorite part of the plot was always like Tony Chopper, because right off the bat, this movie, out of all the Straw Hat Pirates, concentrates more on Tony Chopper than everyone else. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like the Straw Hat Pirates, like every single one of them had their moment. Okay, if it's like emotional moment or humor or serious moment, every single one of them had their time to shine. However, the main center of this story is, of course, Tony Chopper, and that's like one of my favorite parts of this movie. The way how they used him, the way, like, even though the overall agenda, let's put it this way, like the Tony Chopper had in this movie is a lot different than from what it was in the canon, like, but I still like, this overall journey that the Tony Chopper had, like, trying to find its place, in the Straw Hat Pirates, but also in the same time figure out who he is, where he belongs to, and also in the same time try to prove himself, that he's actually brave, and worthy and everything, like, that he can stand up to his enemies, not just simply like run away, try to hide behind the tree or something, and that's literally like, when it comes to story wise, that's literally the best part for me personally in the movie, especially like, when he's like, especially his relationship with the pirate hating kid Mobambi, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But nevertheless, like, like I said, Zoro, Luffy, Sanji, Nami, Usopp, every single one of them, and even they mentioned even Monkey D. Luffy as well, like, every single one of them have their time to shine, But this is definitely like Tony Chopper's movie, Now, one of the things that always made me wonder is where this movie's set. Because in the first two movies, like the movie and the Clockwork Island Adventure, like at least in those two movies, you kind of actually can, even though the One Piece movies were never canon, but still in some capacity, you can kind of still figure out, like, where in the timeline, they belong to. This one, you have no idea where it's set, because, like, okay, we have Chopper, so you think, okay, so there must be, like, after Drum Island arc. But there's a problem. Where is Nefertari Vivi? Because she is with them all the way till the end of Arabasta arc. Now some people might think, oh, it's after Arabasta. Okay, but where is Nico Robin? where is she? So it's very like this. The only movie I would say it's kind of very confusing when it comes to, like, timelines and everything. But even still, like, One Piece movies, they never, like, try to keep up, with the main canon and everything. So. I kind of let it slide a little bit, but I've seen a lot of people, kind of like arguing about that, But overall, in general, like I said, the Straw Hat Pirates are absolutely, like, great as always in this movie, But Tony Chopper, like, this movie, to be fair, made me love the character even more. Now, I do mention, like, one of the things that, of course, when you're expecting from a One Piece movie is, of course, the humor, the twists, and emotions, almost like, almost like in every single movie in general. This movie does have that. Like, it does have humor, twists, and emotions. Now, the twists, there are not too many. Even like just like in the previous two movies, like, there are not too many twists. But when their time comes to shine, when it comes to, like, some revelations and twists, they have their moment. Okay, they have their moment. Although in this movie, I kind of saw it coming, okay? For example, like the little twist about, like, Mobambi's father's killer, who he was, who was behind all that. Also, like, the same time, the like, the horn treasure crown thing, like, that also, at first it kind of started like a mystery, but then later on you kind of realize, of course, what kind of crown they were talking about and everything, So some of the twists that they had, like, you could kind of see it coming a mile away, but, like, still at the same time, you can kind of enjoy the ride, even though it is for a lot of people predictable. But but it's still done in a way that you can enjoy it. Now, the emotions, especially evolving around Chopper and Mobambi, the new character, like, the emotions, like, I mean, I would say this. It made me feel a little bit like, for example, when it comes to Chopper, it made me feel like, about him, like, his overall goal and achievement, his overall crusade, try to prove himself, try to also make a choice, like, if he's going to stay with the animals, if he's going to go with the Straw Hat Pirates, try to prove himself, against an enemy, at the same time being courageous and everything. Like, there, like, those kind of moments, like, have some, like, emotional elements in it as well. And I kind of felt for for that as well, when it comes to Tony Chopper. Now, also there are some emotions evolving, like one of the new characters, which of course, is the kid Mobambi. Like, even though I will say this, I understand where he comes from. I understand, like, his overall motivations and everything. Especially when it comes to like his overall emotional moments. Uh, again, it didn't make me cry or anything, but like it kind of made me feel sorry for him. With everything that the kid has been through and all that. Even though I'm going to talk a little bit about the kid a little bit later, but of course the humor, you can't miss it. Oh my god, you can't miss it. I mean, if I have to choose one of my favorite moments in this movie, they're basically two. So one of them is when Luffy made a drawing on a rock about like Chopper when it was searching for him, like around the Oaken Island, and the drawing that he did was bonkers. Like it was so hilarious, especially like the way he was saying, like but yeah, this is Chopper. It looks very much like him. He doesn't look anything like him. That was the first one I loved, and the second one I loved is basically when you have all the you have all these like strange animals getting together around the Straw Hat Pirates. They offer them food, which is basically fruit. And basically during while he was eating, you see Luffy saying like, "Hey, do you have any meat?" And every single animal there, they scattered. He scared the shit out of them, because they were like, meat. They're all gone. Like they was scared. He scared the shit out of them when he said meat. Because of course, Luffy, out of all the things he loves to eat, the most favorite thing is, of course, is meat. So that was kind of funny at the same time, a little bit disturbing. Since he was surrounded with animals, but like at the same time, it was very, really, really funny. So the point is that all the when it comes to humor, I want to say they land 100%. I would say the humor lands over like 80%. Like like I said, there are a few things that made me laugh, but most of the time I was kind of like just simply smiling and giggling. But for a One Piece movie, it's still for me when it comes to like the humor, it works. Now, of course, like with every single One Piece movie, of course you're gonna have new characters. Now, when it comes to One Piece movies, it was always a very traditional thing to have a kid in it. Okay, like sometimes in One Piece movies there were some exceptions where you didn't actually had a kid, but the majority of the time they always had a kid. And this time we go to Mobambi. Now, I will say this. I mentioned him a little bit earlier, I liked, his character's backstory, and I kind of understood his idea why he hates pirates, especially when it comes to his father's murder, and everything. But out of all the like kid characters in One Piece movies, he is my most least likable. Because throughout the movie, each and every time I watch this movie, every time he irritates the hell out of me. Mobambi, like he irritates the hell out of me. He sometimes I found him irritating. Sometimes he was annoying. Sometimes he was a big pain in the ass and everything. But also in the same time, what balances his character the same time is that you kind of understand what drives him. You can understand his pain. You can understand why he hates pirates. When you see his overall backstory and everything. The twists behind his father's killer and everything. Like you understand where he comes from. You can understand all these elements. So at the end, again, even though he's one of the most least likable kid characters, I still feel sorry for him. But also besides him, you also had the bald parrot, which I thought he was kind of like a pretty cool animal character, kind of like the elder, the druid of the animals, and also the purple blackish, kind of like crow-ish, bird. I think his name was Karasuba, the one with the glasses. He was also kind of like a pretty cool character. Again, besides Momambi, like the other two characters, like they didn't had too much to do, but I still liked him. For example, the bold parrot, when he was, especially when he was describing the history of the island. about this treasure, or like Kurasuba's like relationship with Momambi. Like there were some like they had some of their moments, but again, uh for the like one of the rarest times, like these two characters, like the way how they were written, they didn't have too much to do, but with the things they had their moments. Even though they were little, I still liked them for for what they were, for sure. Now, of course, when it comes to like One Piece, movies, or if it's like manga or anime or just simply canon in general, one of the things that makes One Piece iconic is, of course, the locations. And Oaken Island, I thought as overall location, I thought it was an interesting one. I mean, it was a pretty old-fashioned island. Besides the when the besides the water erupting and kind of creates a barrier, kind of like a wall that kind of resembles a crown, which I thought it was cool. But as an island, I thought it was a decent island. Like very, like I said, a very traditional island. With like with the jungle. Like with like a forest and hills and everything. But one of the things that of course, it's not just simply location. It's of course who who are the inhabitants of this island, and of course are these like strange animals, all the way to their deceased king, all the way to the animals. I mean, it kind of overall it kind of reminds me of the island where that uh, old guy in the chest lived, Gaimon. It kind of reminds me of the island where Gaimon lived, the old guy with the green afro that lives in a chest. Because even that island where the Straw and later on Buggy in his mini adventures visit him also had strange animals. So when I was watching this movie, it kind of reminded me of that. So but overall as a location, again, nothing extravagant. Like there's no like extravaganza about it. Like there's nothing like oh, it's blowing my mind. Like no, but like as an overall location, it was a solid location overall. And I really like the animals in this on this island for sure. Especially the overall how they went crazy when it comes to like their designs. Because on every single animal, like the way how they look, it's bonkers. Like for example, like I'll never forget that wild hog who basically instead of a nose, he had a tuba. Well, the end of a trumpet, basically. Like it was weird, but at the same time, in a positive way, weird, bonkers, weird. Anyway, so now of course we go one of the best parts of this movie, or should I say, one of the most interesting parts of any movie, or in this case, One Piece movie, are of course the villains. Now, of course, the main villains of this movie, you have Count Butler, you have Hebe, should I say, you have Hebe, and you have the big tough guy called Hot Dog. I still can't get over it, how they call him, Hot Dog. I mean, I will admit he does look like a British bulldog, but like seriously, of all the things they called him Hot Dog. I mean, wow. Anyway. So basically, now I will say, no, I'm just going to try to go step by step, through these characters. But so before I go to Count Butler, I want to go just quickly about his two henchmen. Like basically Prince Hebe and General Hot Dog. I mean, they were pretty. I will admit they were kind of cool as like henchmen / villains. I like their characters. For the way how they were created and everything, and also when it comes to their abilities and all. But at the same time, they're also very generic when it comes to personality. When it comes to like their roles and as henchmen and everything. Like they're very generic. But at the same time they were cool. And they had their moments, I mean, one of my favorite parts is when Usopp was making fun of them, like throwing a bone to Hot Dog and then throwing a fucking frog to Hebe because, like, he's literally kind of like, because he's literally like, filled with like serpent theme elements, like it was pretty cool. Also, I will say this: Hebe has a pretty cool sword. I will say this, and I will also admit. Which I kind of forgot to mention is the fights. The fights again. Overall, the fights. The only fights you have is literally at the end of the movie. Like for example, Hot Dog when he's fighting. Hot Dog when he's fighting Zoro, and Heibi when he's fighting Sanji, and of course Count Butler fighting Chopper, Mobambi, and Luffy all together. But I thought overall the fights with them, I thought that it was kind of cool. So overall, the henchmen's pretty generic, but at the same time, I still find a lot of elements that they kind of makes them cool. And then of course we go to the main leader, which of course is Count Butler. Of all the villains, if I have to go through all the 3 villains for the first movie, like when it comes to Bear King or El Drago, Count Butler would literally be the lowest of them all, because I will admit, even though I will say his henchmen, I will say that his henchmen were way more interesting than him. The only thing I found cool about him is literally the violin, as an instrument, or should say, as a weapon he was using to control those, beasts called the Horn Eaters. That's the only cool thing about it. But everything else, he was annoying. He wasn't actually a cool villain. He was actually pretty annoying, villain. I would say the only time he kind of made an impression on me is basically when he got his hands on the crown, basically, literally eating it, and when he turns into a beast, basically. Only then he was a little bit interesting, but before that, not that much, really. Seriously, when it comes to as villains in general, again, El Drago's crew, or even Bear King and the Trump Kyodai or Trump Pirates or whatever, they were way more interesting than Butler and his gang. Count Butler, if I had to look closely, he's one of those villains that you could kind of categorize as a goofy villain, basically. I would say he's kind of a mixture of Buggy, a little bit of Walpole, and also a little bit of Mr. Two, Bon Clay. A little bit, again, a very buffoonish villain. I kind of, and also when it comes to his goal, come on, his goal is very simple. He's obsessed with power. He's searching for this crown just so he can become invincible, basically. So again, power. He's a power hungry villain. And also at first, you kind of see him as a zoologist, but in the end, he's basically a poacher. And I still when they revealed his bounty, I still cannot believe that he's 14 million berries. A guy like him that is 14 million berries worth. Seriously, Hot Dog was he was 4 millions, I think. Heibi was what was the bounty? I think it was also 4 million, but also with, was it 4,100,000 or 4,203,000? Anyway, it was something like that. Basically, they were way more menacing than Count Butler, And again, Count Butler, having 14 millions, I still cannot believe it, because literally, if they were 4, I would literally put Count Butler as maybe 6 or 7 million, not 14. But anyway, whatever. But overall, but even though I didn't like him as a villain, I will say that his design is actually kind of pretty cool. Again, in a very goofy way, but still, kind of interesting overall when it comes to design. But again, as the villains in general, pretty generic. I will admit, for the first time with the 3 movies I did so far, they're so far the least memorable ones out of all of them. But again, they were, they used them, they used them as an element for this movie to kind of push the plot and everything. So I kind of understand that, you need, my philosophy was always, you need to have a villain in a movie. No matter what kind of a story you do, you need to have a villain. So, I get, so, and Count Butler basically and his gang, they serve their purpose. And with that being said, I told you guys, this is going to be a very fast review, very, very fast forward. So my final thoughts about this movie. Now, even though a lot of people, and I kind of agree with them, this movie is basically one of the less likable movies out of all the entire One Piece movie series. But even still, even today, like, sometimes, I like to watch it, like I still find it, to be charming, likable, also a little bit, also entertaining. I really like the One Piece. I really like the Tony Chopper sideline side of the plot. The new characters were pretty cool. The villains were fine. The Straw Hat Pirates in this movie, they were great as always. The fights were fine. I really, the overall world building, the animation, it was pretty good. Well, the animation was pretty good. The world building was, pretty solid. I really like the soundtrack. So overall, as a movie in general, I mean, again, there's not much to tell, because like the overall movie is just like the first two. It's like around 55 minutes long, so it goes very, very quickly. But overall, it was an enjoyable movie. Even though it definitely has flaws, and for me, so far, is my least favorite one. But even in that, I still find it, I still find it enjoyable with all the other elements I mentioned. So with that, I mean, if I have to give a score to this movie, it's gonna have to be a 6 out of 10. I mean, some people might even say like, nah, it's 4 out of 10. It's barely 5. Or it's like 3. Nah, I don't think it's that low. I don't think it's that low. I think like 6 out of 10 for a movie like this. I think it's like, well deserved. Again, the plot is very simple, easy to follow, nothing complicated. There's a lot of elements in the plot that I think most One Piece fans and normal anime viewers will find interesting. The characters of the Straw Hats were pretty cool. The Chopper, for me was the best part since he was the center of this movie. The villains were fine for what they were. The new characters were interesting, although the kid was kind of annoying, as I said before. So overall, like, there's a lot of stuff in it that it was kind of like pretty interesting when it comes to this movie wise. But overall, when it comes to my rating, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. No more, no less. And with that, we come to an end to another live review. Yeah, I mean, and again, I cannot wait to review other One Piece movies. Like, so far, this movie is my least likable, but even still, I will watch it from time to time. And if any one of you want, like, One Piece fans or anime viewers, if you haven't seen this movie yet, give it a shot. I mean, again, it's not like an Oscar-worthy anime movie, but you will be entertained for sure. Everything that was in it served its purpose. And one of the reasons why I find why I give it like a 6 out of 10 is because, like, even though they're non-canon, you have no idea where this movie's set. Literally, because like, you think like it could be after Drum Island, but there's no Nefertari. It could be after Alabasta, but there's no Nico Robin. So, you get my point. But overall, guys, here I am done. Like always, you guys know the drill, know the tradition. Rate the video, comment, subscribe. Give me all personal thoughts, ideas. If you have seen this movie, what did you thought about it? What did you thought about Tony Chopper's role? What did you thought about the new characters, about the villains, about the Straw Hat Pirates in general? Everything about this movie in the comment section down below. And as always, stay tuned for more. But until then, like always, Lord of Shadows signing off. Or, as I like to say it, later, fuckers.